1. I, 23 and female, started working in this fine dining restaurant, and that was my first serious job as a server. I usually worked in bars, nightclubs, etc., so I honestly got the job just by luck and charm, and they were understaffed and busy, so I got lucky. All of my co-workers were older guys, and most of them are sommeliers, so they didn't really acknowledge my work, and usually they gave me some easier tables and guests to practice until I knew the whole wine card and menu. It was really not a problem because at the end of the day, we all shared and earned tips from that day, so it was a win for me. We had a reservation for 2, and a man brought a bouquet of flowers with a jewelry box and told us to hide it from his wife, as the restaurant is very small and with a few tables as we only worked for reservations, so she could easily see it when she came in. The guy seemed pretty chill and down to earth, so the guys gave me the table to work. When they came in, I started, as I would with any other guest, with suggesting some starters and appetizers. They decided and ordered some chicken with a side salad. As this was a fine dining restaurant, and that was the cheapest dish on the menu, I figured this will not be a pretty special table, and I couldn't expect anything from them. But anyway, I was really nice and professional to them, so they could still feel fancy, because I figured the husband wanted to do something nice for his wife, and it was a special occasion for them, so I wanted them to have a great time as I knew how expensive we are. They wanted a bottle of wine but didn't really know what to get, and so I brought them some really good quality wine, but also pretty affordable for them, as they seemed like they were on a budget. They were really nice and friendly, and I got in a conversation with them and found out that they were celebrating. They told me it was their 28th anniversary. It was time for me to bring the wife the present, so I had an idea to treat them on the house with some dessert, to write on the plate the number 28 and to put a candle so that it looked cute. My co-workers were laughing at me and said that I shouldn't treat unimportant guests because they didn't spend a lot of money for the reservation, and they won't leave any tips at the end. I said I don't really care, I just want them to enjoy the night. When I brought out the presents and the cake, the wife started crying and hugging her husband, and they both started thanking me for everything I did for them tonight. I felt awesome because I just made someone's day. I waited for them to finish. When they were done, the guy called for me to come to the table. They thanked me once again, and the wife was still crying, and I was really happy. I said to them they were really nice guests, and I wished them a happy and long marriage. The guy asked me to bring the bill. I got back to the bar, and my co-workers started guessing how much he was going to leave for a tip. They all said it was going to be like a couple of bucks tops, and I did all that work for nothing. The bill was around 100 euros, a little less, maybe, as it really was a slow table. The guy came to the bar and in front of all my co-workers paid the bill with a 100 euro bill, looked at me and said it was the best night for a long time he and his wife had had, and pulled out 2 more 100 euro bills and gave them to me. They all stood shocked as they couldn't believe the guy they had just made fun of left me a double tip from how much the bill was. I thanked them both, shook his hand and wished them a good night. From that shift, every other bigger table was mine, and I earned some respect from everybody. So don't judge a book by its cover, as they say. 2. I'm a student, and my little wine bar is my safe corner of the world. It is carrying me through a major bout of feeling stuck in life while trying to decipher my purpose. It's the only wine bar in the southernmost valley of South Africa, a tiny place surrounded by fairy lights that plays soft music and overlooks a shop that sells small stone sculptures, plants, and jewelry. Sometimes someone with a saxophone or a violin will play outside. Winemakers come to host a free tasting every Friday. The artisanal brewery next door sometimes has rock concerts, so I'm always listening to music I like while I'm working. There are 15 tables, shelves of eclectic wine, and a tiny deli. Not to be dramatic, but it's like a whimsical fairy cafe. The sister designs the food, the brother manages, the dad does the admin, and the mum decorates the shop. My managers are introverted, patient, and very kind. I was always nervous to work in service because of stories about condescending, outright cruel, and disorganized management. My main manager, who is the son of the owner, told me he worked at Disneyland and Chef's Warehouse, and that his managerial style sits somewhere between those styles. I think all 3 of my managers were born for what they do, because they managed to maintain a full restaurant with a 4-meter squared kitchen functioning soundly while never raising their voices. They say it is never necessary, unless they are arguing with each other. Having grown up with parents who are nice, but very short-tempered and shouty, it's really refreshing. The money is pretty nice for a student in South Africa. But admittedly, it gets tough in winter because most of our tables are outside. But on slow days, we usually just watch stupid videos with the managers around the corner, prepare cutlery and such. After busy and tiring shifts, we all sit under the same pretty ornamental lamp and try a bottle of wine. It's always a surprise, and the manager teaches us about the notes of the wine and its terrier. Us waiters are in our early 20s, the managers late 20s. I really get along with the other waiters. If there's a cocktail or dessert, we also try that out. The coffee machine is also free reign, which honestly got me into working there. I don't have a car, so when my boyfriend comes to pick me up, they pour him a glass too. This place makes you feel so valuable that you start to genuinely care for its success, improve your service, and even gain qualifications in wine. The managers often lend out books about wine to take home. The main manager's fiancée also works in management and is a waiter too. She always says my hair or nails look pretty on days when I'm feeling down. She and her best friend, who works as a waiter sometimes, really helped me when I was struggling with my science degree. Surprisingly, there is no odd power dynamic, considering she's engaged to the owner's son. When a drunk or high old guy purposely wasted my time for half an hour, she sternly told him to leave and stop wasting my time. One of the male waiters with a low tolerance for bull and rude customers also deals with these people. They literally come back, which shocks me, but on some better behavior? There was a nightmare manager that was hired for a couple of months. He was the full package. Misogynistic, didn't let the girls take breaks to eat, stole a Prada jacket from a customer, I promise I'm not joking, shouted and screamed. He would transfer tables to himself as tips were being collected, would threaten waiters and kitchen staff to say things to his face, instead of reporting his behavior to the head manager. When his previous boss came into the place to eat, he literally hid under the front counter until he left. He stood out like a sore thumb. He didn't show up to his disciplinary hearing, and that was the end of him. I got a cafe job for a while in my university town, but literally everyone employed there acted like him, and I had zero patience or backbone for that. It was also a really soulless atmosphere. About a third of our customers are regulars. They are mostly lovely, but obviously there are some people with their own issues that they project, like this middle-aged lady that goes on lots and lots of first dates. Then said that placing the bill in the middle instead of handing it directly to the man is embarrassing service. She also had an issue with the fact that I looked at the man first while asking what they would like to drink. It's a small-town place, so a lot of customers actually introduce themselves to you, and they often ask where you live and such, not in a weird way. I like the customers, and I think the waiters maintain a high standard of service, considering how relaxed our management is. At the end of the day, serving people, bad or not, is just a job, and I've learned to not take rude people personally. I feel like it's become commonplace and almost expected that this industry is cutthroat and irrationally stressful, with power tripping and corruption. Of course, peak hours have had me spinning quite a few times. It's so unnecessary for it to be toxic on top of that. My friends joke that I'm so spoiled here that I'm going to be gravely disappointed by any other job I get, especially in a lab. He's definitely right. I find myself standing at my new job in a nearby town, missing this place like some heartbroken ex. There was no true point of this post except to brag about this slice of peace, while the rest of my life is nearing shambles. 3. This is a massive rant. I genuinely wanted to shout into the void. If you want to avoid bad vibes and a whiny line cook complaining, jog on. I work in a nursing home kitchen. The way the kitchen works is weird. We supply 3 satellites, which servers work in and send out the food we make in our main kitchen. We also have a main dining room that fits a single lunch seating and 2 for dinner. Those are usually 100 to 150 people a piece over roughly 45 minutes. One position handles making our mains, proteins, soups, and garnishes for each, plating, and any sauces. The other handles altered dyes, purees, medicinals, CCHO, heart healthy, etc., and sides and the back line, a large cart. I've worked in kitchens since I was 14. A while with a catering company my mom ran. Nothing serious, really. Mostly fast food or a gas station kitchen. All of this is just background context because I've now spent a year in decent change in this kitchen. I wouldn't call myself incredible at what I do. I'm learning a lot and steadily getting better. But I would really only call myself competent. We hired someone recently with claimed decades working as a line cook. Listed some proper restaurants and some experience too. They are hands down one of the hardest to work with humans I have ever met. I'm so confused as to why in the comparatively easy as crap kitchen I work in, I'm able to literally run circles around them. Some examples. Regularly cannot get mains or soup done in time for service. Ex-chef has to step in and get things distributed and panned. We have from roughly 11:30 to make 2 main proteins and a soup. Not enough time for them. I have to hear them bitch and moan for like 10 minutes when servers ask for something without saying please. No, they regularly don't bother with niceties when asking for things themselves. Personally, I'm of a mind we're all in the middle of trying to slam these plates out, and I don't want you to waste any breath when you need something from me. Tell me what you need, get it, and get back to whatever you need to do. Otherwise, yeah, I'll be nice and try to be polite. Throws little tantrums whenever we run low on something, or they receive any criticism. Was told a soup that was made was a little too thick for the old people. For some reason, they want soups almost thicker than gravy. But if it were anywhere else, it would be perfect. This ruined their entire day, and they loudly and repeatedly blamed our Sue for this because he didn't come check on them. Made chili once, and during our lineup, the servers tasted it and said it wasn't very good, claimed it was their first time making it, after decades working in food service. Chili. Leaves the kitchen for about 10 minutes at the start of service to go to the bathroom, every service, every day. Is also just sensitive. To be fair, this I think is just me being a dick. But the kitchen I am in regularly talks crap amongst ourselves. Not in any kind of malicious way, just the regular banter bullshit. Definitely cannot say a word to them though or you'll get a tantrum. Regularly forgets things called for when a la carte is ordered. Once, asking 3 times for an omelette, it took them 15 minutes to start it. Wasn't even doing anything either. Just standing around jabbering in my ear about things I genuinely don't care about, like places they have worked or weird things from their life. We'll also prioritize prepping dinner sides over making the a la carte orders needed at lunch. Leaves me with about 2 days in 14 that I can actually look forward to going to work. I love my job. I love the work I do. But holy hell, has this person spoiled a lot of my joy for where I work. 4. I have 2 stories that are probably too long, but whatever. I never even make it to the walk-in cooler before I start bawling in these situations. I don't cry when people are mean because that happens too often to cry about, but when they're genuine and nice, I'm a goner. I cry when I connect with a guest on a level I never expect to as a server and bartender. Sometimes you can get so real and it's such a surreal and amazing moment when that happens. That's why I love my job. Also, I work at a privately owned, from-scratch kitchen, craft beer brewhouse that has been around and supporting local for 15 years, so I hit the jackpot. It's also right beside a hotel that has a ton of traffic, so this is a disclaimer that we run different from most places. We have humans working on every level, and we all know our guests are human too, even if they're ones that pay us by coming in and getting food. First story. I'm bartending and I had a woman and her husband in. I'm in BC, Canada. We get to chatting and connecting. I was my usual ADHD, energetic self, and while I was talking about the menu and helping them decide on drinks and food, She told me I looked and acted just like her best friend's daughter back home, who had sadly passed away. So we took a pic together, and she sent it to her friend, and then we goofed off the rest of the night. We seriously connected, and they stayed for hours when they initially said they were only in for a drink and maybe a snack. They got appetizers and dinner and dessert by the end. When they were about to leave, her husband was paying while she was out for a smoke. I had already given her a huge goodbye hug and got teary knowing I was probably never going to see them again. He dropped some massive tea on me about how her mom had just had a heart attack the day they got there and how stressed she was. He said she really needed something to lift her up and make her feel less guilty about being away from home when a crisis like this was happening, and that I was the turning point of their whole trip. They were even talking on the way to the restaurant about catching a flight back from here to get to her mom. He told me they found out from her sister while they were in the restaurant that her mom was actually fine, and the family said to enjoy the rest of their vacation, but he didn't think that she would go for it if it wasn't for me. I didn't even make it off the floor before I started crying. I gave him a huge hug too and waved him out the door, and then ran down to the staff area to bawl my face off. I wished I could have asked for a discount on their meal beforehand to make their night better. Second story. I was training a girl on bar at our sister restaurant. There's a bit more casual fine dining vibe, who had semi-recently lost her dad, and just went through her first Father's Day without him. We had a woman come in by herself and take a bar seat. She was quite chatty, but reserved at the same time. We chatted with her the whole time, but she mentioned to us that she was only in town because her husband had cancer, and he was in the hospital, but insisted she go out for a good meal because that's what they would have done together. I can't even explain to you how nice this woman was. They looked up restaurants together and decided on ours. I asked my trainee if she was cool watching the bar. She was a server previously and knows the restaurant, so I was confident in leaving her alone, while I went to the shift leader and told the story. Luckily, while I was talking to my shift leader, the owner was listening behind the door, and when I asked if we could send a dessert home with the guest on the house, she agreed, plus giving a discount on the entire meal. He came around the corner and told us to comp her meal and send her home 2 desserts for them both. We also wrote nice notes on the lid of the containers to cheer them up. I was so excited to surprise this woman with her bill that was heavily reduced, and also give her free desserts for her and her hubby. I told my trainee in secret beforehand because our guest wasn't finished her meal, and we wanted it to be a surprise right as she left. Trainee told me that while I was gone, our guest said that her hubby was on palliative care, and that she didn't think she was taking him home this trip, and that this is kind of like a last date for them, even though he wasn't there. This frickin' woman. When we gave her the bill, she noticed it was less than expected, and we told her that with everything going on in her and her hubby's life, we wanted to make things easier. She tipped all of us each a $100 bill from her pocket, and then also tipped 20% on the machine. Then we surprised her with the dessert set. We wrote a note on the lid, all sneaky, and double-bagged it, so she wouldn't see it until she got back to her hubby. We all tried to say that we wanted to do a good thing for her and that leaving that kind of money was defeating the purpose of our good deed for her, but she insisted and said that her and her husband had so much more money than they knew what to do with, and that we treated her with so much care and respect while she was here that she knew was what they would have done together if he was here too, and that they did this kind of thing together all the time before so it would make him happy. I handed her the desserts in a bag and told her to open it later with hubs, and said they were on the house, and then ran back to the back to sob. My trainee stayed behind because she wanted to have a last interaction with the guest on her own due to her own recent loss, and then she came to join me in the staff area to bawl our faces off together. Five. I used to be a hostess at a large chain restaurant. Each table had one small battery-operated candle in a small glass holder. And as a hostess, one of my side tasks was to always put all the candles away and charge them if I was doing a closing shift. So it's about 30 minutes until closing time. Restaurant closed at 10 p.m. and this group of 3 walks in from the takeout door. They are already immediately angry because they said I saw them at the main door and didn't open the door for them. At the time, the main door was jammed and management wasn't fixing it, and I honestly had not seen anyone at the door. There was quite a large distance between the host stand and the doors, and it was nighttime, so I didn't see them. They then didn't like where I sat them. We only had 2 closing servers working, and they each had booth sections because our booths were very popular. But the family decided they didn't want a booth, so they sat themselves down at a normal 4-corner table in the corner of the restaurant. Fine by me, servers didn't mind. Closing time comes, and I'm putting the candles away. Management had told me beforehand I can't leave until all the candles plus all my other side tasks are done, so I'm very eager to put all the candles away. At the time, I was a freshman in college and had an 8 a.m. class the next day. The only candle I hadn't put away was the family of 3, and it was obvious they were going to stay well past closing time. At 10 p.m., I walk up to their table and take the candle away. Mind you, the entire restaurant is empty of guests besides them. So they had seen for a couple of minutes me putting candles away. Soon after, they call over the manager. Then the manager calls me to the kitchen. The manager screams at me in front of all the staff that I just jeopardized the entire company by taking the candle away from that table because now they're angry. They said it ruined the ambience. Hellfreezer's note, tossers. On with the story. And the manager said, "What if they tell corporate?" The same manager was horrible to me over and over again, so this was just my breaking point of the ridiculousness over a candle. An electric candle at that! The general manager and other manager was fine, but this manager was inconsiderate to everyone, but partially rude to me. Even the other hostess and servers felt like the manager was needlessly rude to me. This manager was an older Hispanic woman, and I'm Hispanic, and 2 of the other hostesses thought maybe the manager felt so comfortable yelling at me and touching me, because we were both Hispanic. No touching. So I quit. I only gave the GM a 1-week notice by finishing up my schedule for the week that was already published when I left. I loved my co-workers, and I liked the 2 other managers. Working there was definitely a learning experience. I kept in touch with some of my co-workers after I left. Ironically enough, the male manager just straight up stopped showing up right after I quit. The general manager left. This I knew because she had talked about opening up her own restaurant. And the rude manager was the last manager to quit, because apparently the new general manager was very rude and she didn't like the way she was being treated. Aw, diddums. A lot of the servers quit too because of this new general manager. Last I heard from my ex-co-worker was that the Hispanic manager was getting a divorce because her husband cheated. I'm not saying she deserved to get cheated on, but with her pleasant attitude, I'm not surprised. Won't you light my candle? Hey everybody, thank you very much for watching the video. This was Spinning Plates 273. Big thanks to the good folks who let me use their stories here. I appreciate that very much. Without you, the videos don't happen. Although, to be fair, without me, the videos don't happen either. And big thanks to Scottish Power for all the electricity they provided, and that helped the video happen as well. I'd like to say thank you to Jesus. And a big shout out to Thomas Hicks, who was the United States winner of the 1904 Olympic Marathon. I could probably have done it without you. Okay, that's enough nonsense. If you would like to support the channel, you can do that by joining me over on my Patreon page, linked for you in the description. And you can also buy some merchandise, and there is a little tip button underneath the video if you feel so inclined. You don't have to, but it is appreciated. It's all very much appreciated. Okay, let's move on to Hellfreezer's question of the day. Today's question is: when you're making an omelette, do you like to just throw stuff in a pan, or do you like to roll them? You know, like you get the little omelette pans, and then you kind of roll it, and then you run the I think Japanese style. Is that the correct origins of those ones? I've never had a rolled omelette. I usually just slice mushrooms, cheese, bacon, whatever it is that's going in it. Sometime. Oh, I haven't done tuna for a while actually. I'm making myself hungry. Then I just put like 5 eggs in, depending on the size of the eggs, and it takes up the entire space of the frying pan, which is about the exact size of the plate, and it's very, very yummy and makes me very, very happy to do it that way. But let me know what you think in a comment below. And before we go, let's take a look at the answer of the day from a previous video. And this one is, do you find there's a point in the year where you just crave sandwiches and you no longer really crave hot food because it's already quite warm? And today's answer comes from Grey Warden. Not really related to temperature or season, and more related to how much time I have. If I'm working many over hours and come home pretty late, I neither feel like standing around in the kitchen to cook, and also don't really feel like eating a proper warm meal that late anymore either, and would rather prefer some quick salads or sandwiches. But in general, if I have the time to cook, I would do it all year round. Thank you very much for your answer, Grey Warden. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves. Because if you don't, I'll know about it, and I'll send the boys round, and they'll tickle you.